Hello, faithful, and welcome to the 49ers Plus podcast. I'm Al Moriello, and this is your source for the most subjective 49ers discussion, only smart takes, never any clickbait. And today we're going to be discussing the 49ers upcoming game at the Houston Texans, Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to start off talking about some injury updates, get into when Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy would potentially or could potentially return before we dive into the Texans. Taking a look at Houston overall offense, hit by the injury bug as well. The defense is top-notch and stout, and then we'll get into keys to the game and a prediction. So let's jump right in. Injuries that you guys may be aware of. So Jake Brendel, Yatir Gross-Matos, Bryce Huff, Ricky Pearsall, and Brock Purdy are all out. I mean, Brendel, we knew early on, the same as Yatir and Bryce Huff. Pearsall, Pershanian, there's a chance he didn't even practice at all this week. Pearsall's might return next week, but 2 weeks could be right for him. And the same with Brock, and I'll get into that a little bit. So the Niners obviously still banged up, taking more hits along the defensive line, especially at the end, which we're going to talk about. Questionable is linebacker Luke Gifford and Diamador Lenore with a thigh bruise. Per Kyle and John, they are hopeful and optimistic that Demo can play in this game, and his fellow cornerbacks are not on the injury report, that being Renardo Green and Upton Stout. Upton Stout with the ankle, hurt it on the last play of practice last week leading up to the Falcon game, and Renardo Green hurt his toe during the Falcon game, came out around the midway point. And I initially just thought the worst. Oh, it's turf toe. What else could it be for a toe injury? They started out as limited participants at practice, I believe, on Wednesday, but then were full participants Thursday and Friday. So that is a boon for the secondary. Although if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that I'm a big Chase Lucas fan as well. So if Upton Stout can't go, or if he's struggling, Robert Saleh should have no reservations about, not to say a quick hook, but subbing out Upton Stout for Chase Lucas. And if Demo can go, that would be huge, especially considering the injuries that Houston has on offense and at receiver. We'll get into that in a little bit. So a Brandon Ayuk update. A few weeks ago, Ayuk wasn't even close. There was no timeline for his return. Per Kyle, this upcoming week after the Houston game, they could open up Brandon Ayuk's 21-day practice window. Now, it was a bit of a leading question from the media member. The first question was, is he getting close? And he's like, yes, he's getting better. Every week he's getting better. And the question was, is there a chance that you can open up his practice window soon? And Kyle's response was, yeah, that's a possibility that we can even open up this week. We'll see how everything goes. Translation, Ayuk is still not close. I do not think they're going to open up his practice window this upcoming week. I mean, listen, it's possible, but everything the Niners have been saying about injuries is always downplaying the severity, downplaying the time of return. When Jennings was banged up, Pearsall, since he injured his knee, Brock the first 2 times, rushing Brock back, we'll get into that in a second, kind of bit them in the ass. And even now, Brock's been, they've been eyeing or thinking about, Brock has a chance from the first week after he got hurt, the Jaguar game. Now, the Ram game after that wasn't a possibility because it was a Thursday, but the game after that, I guess it was Tampa? So, there's a chance. There was no chance that Brock was going to play, re-aggravating an injury. But let's get back to Ayuk before we talk about Brock. I don't want to say that he's not close, saying, maybe he'll return in December. And yes, listen, it's possible they open up his practice window this week. But everybody remember, just because the practice window is open does not mean he's going to play the following Sunday at the Giants. And I've been on record saying, if you're listening to this podcast, thank you very much. If this is your first time, thank you for listening. If you're watching, same thing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope we keep you throughout this episode and for the long haul. But I've been on record saying that the target could be at home against the Rams. 3 games from now. Houston, at the Giants, at home for the Rams. Don't bring him back on the road. Don't bring him back on turf fields, especially MetLife Stadium, House of Horrors for the 49ers. Bring him back the Rams. Let him feel the love. It's a grass field. Now, granted, Ayuk got hurt at Levi's, a year ago against the Chiefs. It wasn't a non-contact injury. His leg buckled. He got smashed by 2 Chiefs defenders. So, it's not this non-contact injury where it was Bosa in 2020 and someone else, was it Solomon Thomas, went down in either a Jets or Giants game, whatever game was first. And then they had to play there, the following weekend also. But the upcoming games, for Ayuk, at the Giants, at home for the Rams, at Arizona, at home for Carolina, at Cleveland, then the bye, then they have 4 games to finish it off. I think he'll be back before the bye. If it's not the Rams game, then I would say maybe the Panther game, because again, at home, grass field, then you have Cleveland, then you have a bye. So you can kind of ease him back 2 games, bye week, rest him up, and then get him ready for the sprint to end the season, 4 weeks, hopefully making a playoff push. So listen, I'll still stick with my Rams week 9 prediction, but it could make sense to push it back to hosting Carolina. And that's actually a Monday night game, for whatever that means. As of right now, the NFL could always flex it out, but with the Panthers at 4-3 and the Niners right now at 5-2, there's a better than average chance that they'll keep that game on the schedule. So somewhere between weeks 9 and 11, I think Ayuk should be returning. Now, when's Brock going to return? And I think it's actually fair in a weird way to say or ask, who comes back first? Is it Brock or Ayuk? Now, if you want to say smart money is on Brock, they're both week to week. Kyle has declared Ayuk as week to week, but that's really week to week to open up his practice window. And then once that's opened again, he is not going to be playing that first week. And I wouldn't be surprised if they took all 3 weeks to practice, because it's only 3 days of practice a week, right? It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So, Brock getting hurt week 1, coming back after 3 weeks for what was a 2 to 5 week injury, I said earlier, bit him in the ass. He should have rested for the full 5 weeks. Again, the difference is bringing him back healthy versus healthy enough to play. Those are 2 different things. And when you are dealing with something, we'll call it as tricky or frustrating as turf toe, you might want to err on the side of caution for your franchise quarterback. If he had waited the full 5 weeks, he would have been back for the Tampa Bay game. Not saying that game would have went any differently, because it was more of a 2 blown assignments. Baker Mayfield's 2 touchdowns came on 2 blown defensive assignments. I don't know if Brock would have been able to make up for that, or if that game would have played out any differently. But he didn't get that full rest, re-injured himself against the Jaguars at home on grass, was just tackled the same way that he was tackled up in Seattle. So that's not a grass or turf kind of issue. It's just a bad luck issue. But it might not have been so easy, we'll call it easy, to re-injure if he had an extra week or 2 of rest to heal it. The Niners, you can't convince me that Brock isn't as healthy now as he was going into the Jaguar game, because I don't think the re-aggravation was setting him back to square one, ground zero. I think it was a re-aggravation that set him back, but I don't believe, and granted, I'm not there, I'm not a doctor, I don't know anything, but I'm just, from what I'm hearing, reading things, transcripts, press conferences, and trying to read between the lines a little bit, I just don't think it's as severe of an injury as the first time. If anything, it's the same, and they're actually just giving him the adequate amount of time to heal a tricky injury to heal. Now, this upcoming game, the Houston game, is 4 weeks since he re-injured it. The Giants is week 5, or the Giant game will be week 5. I don't think he returns there. I think he returns versus the Rams. And you could have a situation where both Brock and Ayuk return versus the Rams. And, if they might not be 100%, they're 85% ish plus. But I keep saying you want him healthy, not healthy-ish to play. Now, maybe 2 more weeks, Brock will be 100%, or say 95, much better than whatever he was for the Jaguar game. And Ayuk's not going to be 100% until year 2. So this is just how much can you get out of him? I don't mean that in a way that like they're using him, but how productive is he going to be when the knee is not 100%? And it's usually year 2 for just an ACL. This is an ACL and an MCL. So more damage. So I really don't think anytime this year you're going to see what Brandon Ayuk was or what he will be in year 2. And then it begs the question, will Brandon Ayuk even be on the team next year? Do they look to trade him? Is Jennings gone? Is Demarcus Robinson gone after 1 year? Because they gave him a modest contract. So the 49er wide receiver situation, as much as it's been in flux this year with injuries and players coming in and out of the lineup, there's the real possibility it's a position group that's in flux in the off season, just given what the Niners may decide to do on the trade front or free agency, or maybe trying to cut some salary, even though I think they are 20-ish million under the cap next year, if not more. The only way I think Brock plays against the Giants is if something happens to Mac in the Houston game, so he gets banged up and it's another one of those injuries that he doesn't know of until Monday or Tuesday. If Brock's the healthier player between the two, then he would play at the Giants. I don't think you can justify putting out a more compromised Mac Jones, who already is limited from a mobility standpoint, versus at that point will be 5 weeks of rest Brock Purdy. Now he's still practicing. It's not full-blown rest where he's doing nothing, but 5 weeks of no game hits or game action. We'll see. Knock on wood that Brock gets healthier, but of course Mac comes out of this game relatively unscathed because it's a legit Houston defense that we're going to talk about. And Adrian Martinez is the backup. I've said this for the past couple podcasts. If you were watching the Thursday night game, Vikings and Chargers, you saw JJ McCarthy dressed. And I think they said, and Carson Wentz took an ungodly beating. Max Brosmer was the backup, but JJ McCarthy dressed and was the emergency number 3. I still would be okay with Brock being the emergency number 3. He's been declared out, so it's not like this is a maybe Willie won't-he situation. And I know some folks out there, disagree, and that's okay. But if the line between winning and losing is so thin in the NFL, and the 49ers have such a small margin for error, given everything they've gone through on both sides of the ball. Their biggest loss was 11 points to the Bucs. Their biggest win was 10 points to the Falcons. Otherwise, the other 5 games were one score either way. If something were to happen to Mac and it's a game that's close, Adrian Martinez coming in basically guarantees you a loss, unless Mac gets hurt when the Niners are up by like 3 or 4 scores. The fact that the Niners are in a heated race in the NFC West, they want to make a push for the division, for playoffs, etc., and that every win's going to matter. I wouldn't mind if, and again, he's out, it's not going to matter, if Brock was the emergency number 3, just in case something happened to Mac in a situation where the game was within reach and Brock could be the difference between a win or a loss. Because Adrian Martinez is not that. Adrian Martinez is the difference between losing close or losing big. It's not going to happen. I keep saying it. I would still do it again because it doesn't count against your game day actives, right? You keep Brock dressed and he never even plays. And if Adrian Martinez gets hurt, you don't have to put him in. You could put Kyle Juszczyk in at quarterback. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't guarantee that he would ever go in, but it's a nice option to me to have if things go to shit with Mac Jones and his knee and injury, and the game is still winnable. All right, let's transition to the look ahead. Houston hosting the 49ers, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The Niners are now a 1.5-point favorite at Houston. The Texans are 2-4, started out the year with 3 straight losses at the Rams, at home for the Buccaneers, and at Jacksonville. Then they won. They actually shut out the Titans. They won at Baltimore without Lamar Jackson and a terrible defense, so they did put up 44 points, and lost at Seattle. Now, what all that means is they are what their record says they are. They are a 2-4 team. Not a great team. They have not beaten a team with a winning record yet. And their 2 wins came against teams, the Titans and the Ravens, who are a combined 2-11. They did dominate those games, but they dominated 2 bad football teams. Baltimore will get better, but when you don't have Lamar and it's Cooper Rush in and your defense is playing like crap and they're missing a whole bunch or a handful of players on the defensive side, even for an offensively challenged Houston Texans team, these are still professional players, right? And to go into Baltimore and do that was impressive against a 1-5, well, the team that's 1-5 now. Texans offense, not good. 22nd overall. They're averaging 304 yards total, 23rd passing, averaging 198 per game, 18th rushing, averaging $106, and 21st in points, allowing 21 points. It's nice when that works out neatly. Defense is where they're going to be a problem for San Francisco. So they are 4th overall, allowing 274 a game, 5th against the pass, allowing 179, 10th against the rush, allowing 95, and 1st in points allowed, probably the most important metric, allowing 14.7 points per game. It's going to get harder for the Texans offense, and we'll talk about the defense in a minute. Nico Collins, wide receivers, Nico Collins and Christian Kirk are out. Nico Collins with a concussion, Christian Kirk with a hamstring, and Tank Dell has been out for a while. So their top 3 receivers are out. Sound familiar, 49er fans? The top 3 receivers that will be playing in this game are rookies Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, and 3rd-year receiver Xavier Hutchinson. Nice little fun fact, they are all from Iowa State. And probably just Xavier Hutchinson was the only one that Brock played with. His first year in the league was 2023. Offensively, CJ Stroud still struggling. I know there's a lot of folks in the Grant Cohn clown clique that were all over CJ Stroud as a rookie, basically sucking him off, and then completely, well, I don't say completely regressed, but regressed last year, even though the Texans made the playoffs in each of his first 2 years, and is playing not great football again. At running back, you have Nick Chubb and Woody Marks, who's more the receiving back, but has had a couple of games with a decent amount of carries. And Dalton Schultz at tight end leads the team with 30 receptions. So minus the injuries at receiver, which are huge, any team that's missing its top 3 receivers, again, sound familiar, Niner fans, teams are going to struggle. Quarterbacks are going to struggle. CJ Stroud is struggling. Brock has played relatively well when he's in. Mac Jones has played maybe a little bit better since he's been in the whole offense between receivers and Kittle and offensive linemen, and obviously what's going on with the defense, a big issue. But the defense equally as responsible, maybe slightly more so for even, the Texans, getting the wins that they did. Although, going up against Cam Ward and Cooper Rush isn't the most daunting task in the world, but they did play well against the Rams, the Bucks, the Jags, and Seattle. The Texans were in it there, for a while. But Seattle kind of pulled that game out, and what was it, 27-19 final. So everything's going to start with CJ Stroud, right? Running game, not great. And Dalton Schultz, I may have to pick him up in fantasy, even just putting him as a flex, because he's probably going to get the most targets on the offense. Defense is where Houston will be a problem. And it starts up front, defensive ends, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Very good defensive ends, both with 4 sacks each. Middle linebacker, Azeez Al-Shaair, former 49er. And the corners, Derek Stingley, extremely good corner. 2 interceptions on the year. Kamari Lassiter on the other side with 1 pick. And Jalen Petre, who started his career at safety, but he's now listed as the nickelback for the Texans, leads the team with 3 interceptions. So they're, if that's how it's actually going to shake out and Petry's going to start at nickelback, you're starting corners for the Texans with 6 interceptions. The Niners again going on game 14 in a row without an interception. This is a legit defense, guys. I know, last week's game, if you listen to the podcast, the Falcons came into the game number 2 overall offense, number 1 overall defense, and it felt like a facade. No one was going to mistake, the Falcons offense at number 2 in the league for the Rams' greatest show on turf, or any of the other top offenses in the league. Like Dallas has a much more explosive offense than the Falcons. Doing it with smoke and mirrors, strong ground game, which the Niners held 90 yards under their season average. And Michael Penix, as I said before, young quarterback, has some weapons in Drake London and Darnell Mooney and Kyle Pitts, who had 7 receptions against the 49ers. But it didn't feel like, oh God, the number 2 offense in the league is coming into town. Not at all. And even with the defense, the number 1 overall defense, it didn't feel like, and maybe there is some recency bias where the Falcons defense has been so bad for so long that, seeing them, top of the list in terms of overall rankings and the pass defense more legit than the run defense or how that unit is overall. Because if a Falcon team can't get a pass rush on Mac Jones on only 1 sack and really not much pressure otherwise, if any team can't get a pass rush on Mac Jones, because the Niners line is not that good, that's more of a detriment to the defense than really what the Niners are doing offensively. But the Texans are a legit defense. It's going to pose a problem. They cover well. They have good corners. They're probably going to go man to man a good amount. And we're going to get into that in the keys to the game in a little bit. But and this game is on the road for whatever that's worth. I mean, home field advantage is worth 3 points, they say. And not having to travel. It's a 1:00 game, so it's an earlier game for the Niners body clocks versus when they went to Tampa. It was a 4:00 game. So 1:00 West Coast time didn't matter. Lost that game 30-19 anyway. But between the pass rush, the linebacking unit, and the secondary, this is a complete defense that the Texans are boasting, and one that can give the 49ers many a problem. Now, keys to the game, let's switch it around to the Texans offense. Their O-line is even worse than San Francisco's. The Texans O-line is 30th in both pass block win rate and run block win rate. CJ Stroud, as he did last year, struggles with pressure, but the Niners are down 3 of their top DNs in Bosa, Huff, and Yetur Gross-Matos. So can Michael Williams, Sam O, Robert Beal, and either Trevis Gibson or William Bradley King, whoever's elevated from the practice squad, can they get pressure in addition to, the D tackles on the inside, Kalia Davis, CJ West, Alfred Collins? I don't know if Kevin Givens is going to be activated or not. I can't imagine them just going with 3 defensive tackles. So your 2 elevations may be someone from the practice squad, Evan Anderson, or Sebastian Valdez, and a defensive end. Because I don't think anything's going to happen on the O-line. There was talk about, maybe Jalen Moore, who was on IR. Maybe they can bring him back this week. He's questionable as a swing tackle. I'm sorry, Spencer Buford. I think I said Jalen Moore in a previous podcast as well. Spencer Buford, I don't think there's any rush to bring him back. Austin Pleasance is the swing tackle. You have Drew Moss on the interior. They actually, they may need to elevate Nick Sakiel to be an interior player and potential backup center for Matt Hennessy. So there might be some, depending on when you listen to this, some roster moves that the Niners make. I don't know if they're going to put anybody on IR, elevate someone from the practice squad, 2 players, promote someone. If Kevin Givens is going to come back, no idea. So the Niners aren't going to feast on the Texans O-line. It's weakness against weakness, right? But who is going to be less weak than the other team? We're not talking about strength in any way, shape, or form, right? But this is a game where the Niners, could get away with rushing 4 and giving just enough pressure, just enough discomfort for CJ Stroud to bail, throw away, tipped passes. Maybe the Niners get their first interception of the year this week. I'm not holding my breath, but man, when you're going weakness against weakness, a big key to this game is which weak unit plays better, Texans O-line or Niners D-line. Let's now move from the line to the Texans receivers. They're down their top three corners. If Demo can play and Renardo Green is 90% of what he needs to be, and Upton Stout continues to get better, can they control the Niners should be able to control the passing game well enough? Can they make the Texans one-dimensional, controlling the passing game, but then do you key on completely stopping the run? Completely key on Nick Chubb and his backup Woody Marks, and make the Texans. And now the strength of the Texans offense, I guess, in a way, is CJ Stroud, because he's a very good passer, accurate passer, if he is given time. If the Niners can't get to him, even rookie receivers, third-year receivers, Dalton Schultz, or one of the running backs out of the backfield, people are going to be open. But if the Niners can take the running game away completely, then as a D-line, you're pinning your ears back, even if you're not the most talented D-line from a pass rushing standpoint. You know what's coming. You know that they're going to be in pass mode. And the best way to get the Texans in pass mode is to get up on them. Get up on them by preferably 2 or more scores and take the run away. And you know that the Texans are going to be relying on CJ Stroud and a very young receiving core could play right into Robert Saleh and the defense's hands. On the flip side, can the Niners protect Mac Jones? Good defensive line, 2 really good defensive ends. They have to keep Mac upright. He can't take a beating like he did against the Rams. It's got to look more like what it was against the Falcons. And even then, even that Falcon team was supposedly a good pass rush team, which they quieted quite a bit. But for both of these quarterbacks, CJ Stroud and Mac Jones, nobody likes pressure. Tom Brady didn't like pressure. Like, nobody likes people diving around them at their feet, forcing them off their spot, and Mac Jones not mobile, even less mobile. Now, hopefully the knee is even as close to 100% as it's been all year. Keeping Mac upright to face this secondary, which is very good, is going to be important. That leads to the next keys to the game. Who's going to win the battle of the Niners receivers versus the Texans corners? This is a game where a healthy Ricky Pearsall would have been such a big improvement, or such a huge plus. Brandon Ayuk as well would have been such a huge plus. 2 very good route runners. You would have to give Ayuk some slack. Say this was his first or second game back. He wouldn't be nearly close to all the way back, but at least a healthy Pearsall would help combat some of this sticky coverage that they're probably going to see from Houston. Otherwise, it's going to fall to, again, Kendrick Bourne and Juwan Jennings. I don't know who's going to be Demarcus Robinson, Sky Moore, and if it's going to be Jordan Watkins. It probably is going to be Jordan Watkins, actually, because they're probably going to need to call up Nick Sakiel as one of the backup linemen, and Travis Gibson or William Bradley King. So they're going to be, unless, again, they make some sort of promotion to the roster, I don't think you see Malik Turner or Russell Gage. So it's probably going to be Jordan Watkins as the number 5 receiver, meaning he's going to be a gunner on special teams punt returns. I think what it comes down to when it's all said and done is whoever runs the ball better and whoever protects the ball better is going to win this game. Points are going to be at a premium, right? I mean, you have the Niners' strength is their offense and their passing game against the Texans' number 1 defense and a very good pass defense. The Niners are, outside of last week, and let's not say because the Niners ran for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns, McCaffrey had a huge game, 201 total yards, that, everything's fixed. How about the 6 games before that? I need to see it more. It's got to become a trend and not a one-off anomaly for me to start believing that the Niners running game is fixed, right? Great first step against Atlanta. Granted, Atlanta was a middling run defense, giving up $114 going into that game. The Texans are giving up 95 on the ground. Again, the Niners don't have to get to 179. They don't have to get to 149. If they can get to 119, 32 rushes for 119 yards, close to 4 yards a rush, that would be good and maybe enough. The 30 rushing mark, I think, would be, I don't want to say the high water mark. I don't think they're going to get to 39 like they did against Atlanta. I think they could get over 30, because I think this game is going to be ugly. I don't think this is going to be a Mac dropping back 40 or 45 times type game. Same with CJ Stroud, unless some team just gets out to such a big lead, a special teams touchdown, a pick six, fumble return, something that really shifts the momentum clearly in another team's direction. This should be at a points or at a premium game, because the Niners are only averaging about 20 points a game. The Texans are only averaging about 21 points a game. And the Texans are scoring about 21 and they're only allowing about 15. So, yeah, I mean, could the Niners score 20 on the Texans or more? Absolutely. I mean, the Seahawks just put up 27. Granted, the Seahawks offense is operating at a better clip than the 49ers offense right now. But like anything else, playing good defense, running the football, and protecting the ball, the team that does that better usually wins. As much as the NFL has advanced in the past 5 years, 10 years or more with the passing game, these are still fundamental truths that even a one turnover difference, I think, could be the difference in this game. Yes, Houston has not beaten a team with a winning record. Yes, they've beaten two teams that are absolutely awful. I'd feel a little bit better about this game if the Niners were at home, but the Texans, they have a game-changing type of unit on defense. One that can frustrate Mac, one that can get to him, one that can lock down their receivers, and not so healthy Jennings, who is not fast to begin with, not a great route runner, and sometimes his hands could be suspect, as seen last week with that pass that went off his hands, intercepted by the Falcons. Kendrick Bourne, not a burner. Demarcus Robinson, not necessarily a burner. Suspect hands again, dropping essentially a fair catch bomb from Mac Jones, which could have extended the lead for San Francisco. Sky Moore, you're not going to get much out of, and if Jordan Watkins even sees the field on offense for a snap, I would consider that a win for him. So, boy, it's, and also you could look at it as, what's the bigger delta? What's the bigger difference? The Niners defense over the Texans offense, or the Texans defense versus the Niners offense? And I'm not sure. I think if you were to average those out, it's probably pretty close, right? Probably Texans have a much better defense than the Niners. Niners have a much better offense than the Texans, right? They just happen to be going up against a counterpart that's on par with them. Good offense by the Niners, good defense by the Texans. Middling offense by the Texans, middling-ish defense by the Niners. That's why turnovers and protecting the ball is going to be so, so big. Prediction time. This was a game, guys, that before the season starts, I had the Texans winning. I thought going out, traveling for back-to-back games, I'm not sure if the Niners are traveling back to Santa Clara or staying somewhere in between with the Giant game the following week. But this was actually, before the season started, I thought the Texans would be a better team than they are. I don't know if many of us saw them losing their first 3 games, or after 6 games being 2-4 and well back in the division behind the Colts and the Jaguars, or not too far behind the Jaguars, but well behind the Colts. The Texans still have the same personnel as the preseason. They're just missing their top 3 receivers, which is going to be huge for CJ Stroud and company. The other way I can look at this is this a letdown game? I think the Buccaneers game in some ways was a letdown game because of the overtime game against the Rams, and then Warner getting hurt. I think all of that just took the wind out of the Niners' sails, although it was a 1-score game until about 2 minutes left when the Bucs kicked the field goal to go up 11. So San Francisco was still in that game for 58 minutes of that game. And I can see this is going to be a full 60-minute game against Houston as well. And again, as I said earlier, Niners defense, Houston offense, kind of close. Niners offense, Houston defense, maybe kind of ish close as well. And again, I don't know what that difference is going to be, but I still have reservations about this game because of the Texans defense. And this is a game, like, can't you see, I can see more the Texans offense, even down their top 3 receivers, somehow breaking through and having a good enough passing and running effort against the Niners D than maybe what the Niners offense is capable against the Houston defense. I think this is a close game, but I have the Texans winning 20-16. If that's the case, it would drop the Niners to 5-3 as they go to the Giants next week. Now, they're in the middle of a 3-game stretch. The Falcons, the Texans, and the Giants were, I've been pretty adamant. Like, if they can get all 3, great, but they've got to get 2 of 3. And the 2 that you want are Atlanta and the Giants because they're NFC games. Again, we can get greedy, get all 3 before you get, to the Rams 3 weeks from now at home. But I do feel that the Niners, the Texans defense is going to be a difficult assignment, a difficult matchup. You want to call it a difficult nut to crack, whatever analogy, simile, whatever you want to use. I think the Texans defense might be the most dominant unit on the field on Sunday, and it might be the difference in a Houston victory. We shall see. I hope I am wrong. But I have the Houston Texans winning 20-16. Guys, I want to thank you for either listening or watching, taking time out of your busy schedule to make us part of your listening or viewing routine. Whatever you guys are doing between now and we speak again, Monday or Tuesday, NBA is back. World Series is actually starting. Tonight game is on now as I'm recording this on Friday night. So whatever you are doing between now and we speak again, hope I'm wrong. Hope the Niners win. But either way, hope you all stay happy, healthy, and safe. We will talk soon. Take care, guys.